Salutations to the nations. What's good, Angel Knots? It's your boy Young Sinai.
Angel Knot.
So today we're gonna be talking about 5 video games that got turned into television shows. And we're also gonna be discussing why those shows flopped. Okay, so to get things started, we're going to start with one of my favorite games of all time, Street Fighter. So, the original Street Fighter came out in 1987, getting its start in arcades. And they followed it up with Final Fight, which was a beat 'em up, but that didn't really do as well as they expected. So then they released Street Fighter 2, like the Street Fighter 2 that we know, not the Final Fight that they were trying to pass off as the sequel to Street Fighter. They released Street Fighter 2, and that took the world by storm. By storm. Like, I don't think you guys understand. From the research that I did, it said that Street Fighter within its first year made 1 billion with a B, billion dollars. And that got me really curious. I asked ChatGPT, I said, how much is $1 billion in quarters? Okay, so here's the math. Let's take a look. Okay, so the number of quarters, a billion divided by 25 cents, is 4 billion quarters. The total weight calculation, because I was like, how much does that weigh? So a quarter weighs about 5.67 grams. Da 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 da. Blah 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 blah. Blah blah blah. And so that's 25,000 short tons. Never even heard of a short ton. I'm sorry, y'all. I got to like algebra, and now that was a wrap with me when it came to math. Okay, but in comparison, it says if an average car weighs about 4,000 pounds, then that's about the weight of 12,500 cars. Or Boeing 747 planes, it says a fully loaded Boeing 747 weighs around 400 short tons. So 25,000 short tons is equivalent to about 62 Boeing 747s. That's insane. What? Man, okay. The Street Fighter show was produced by Envision Entertainment. It was featured on the USA Network, Cartoon Express, and Action Team programming. The series only ran for 2 seasons, each season having 13 episodes. It ran from 1995 to 1997. If I had to describe this cartoon to someone today, I would say that Guile basically put together the Capcom Street Fighter Avengers, okay, to fight Thanos. I mean, M. Bison, okay? So you got Chun Li as Black Widow, you got Blanca as the Hulk, you got Ryu as Iron Man, you got Ken as Thor, and you got Cammy as Scarlet Witch, okay? It drew a lot of inspiration from the Street Fighter movie, but I'll just say, even though that movie was pretty good, Jean-Claude Van Damme as Guile, I mean, if his hair don't got no exaggerated razor blade box cut, it ain't Guile. You feel me? And I don't care how cool Jean-Claude Van Damme is. Season 2, they switched studios and it had better animation. It had better storylines. Like the storylines were more cohesive with each other. But by that time, it had already lost a lot of its audience. Who knows? Perhaps if they had that studio in the first place, it may have lasted longer. So the reason why it ended was due to poor ratings and cheesy dialogue and weird pacing. And it really just couldn't compete with a lot of the other cartoons at that time, such as X-Men. But should you watch it? Well, I'll say if you are a fan of Street Fighter, you may appreciate this if you can go into it, with humor. Um, don't expect a lot from it, okay? Did it live up to the hype? I would say no, due to the cheesy lines and poor animation style. Now, should you watch it? I would say yes. If you can go into it not taking it too seriously, a lot of people do like it as a cult classic. But if you want my suggestion, I suggest that you watch the Street Fighter animated movies. Those are mwah. Okay, next up we have Mutant League. Mutant League came out in 1993 for the Sega Genesis. It used the Madden engine. It's not your average football game. It's more like monsters, and like when they smash into each other, they like die. Mutant League Hockey came out the following year, where you get to play as robots and trolls and skeletons. And the game featured exploding hockey pucks as well as being able to bribe the referee. The cartoon was on air from 94 to 96. It ran a total of 2 seasons. I'm starting to see a trend here. There were 40 episodes altogether. It was produced by Franklin Waterman and EA. So what this show is about is there was an earthquake during a football game, and it exposed a lot of toxic waste. And that toxic waste caused everybody there to mutate. The main character is Bones Justice, and he grows up to play for the Midway Monsters. The crooked commissioner, Zalrog Prig, is always trying to get Bones Justice to come play for one of his teams. Whether it's the Slayers, the Evils, the Derangers, or the Ooze. And if that fails, he's ready to trash him for saying no. Meanwhile, Bones is on a side quest to try to find his dad. And he's trying to bring order into the league, which that's a running subplot throughout the entire series. Unlike the game where players actually die, the TV show players lose body parts and get injured. But there is something called the Rejuvenator where they put toxic chemicals all over the monster and it restores them. I don't know how that works. But the show isn't just football and hockey. It has other sports as well. It has soccer. It has sumo wrestling. It has monster trucks, monsters driving monster trucks. And just like in the video game, the sports have a ton of death traps. So it's like they're playing against the other team, but they're also playing against Jigsaw from the Saw movies. So the reason why it ended, low ratings. Also, it couldn't really find its audience. It was kind of too graphic for kids at the time, and there's not really much that you can do with a mutant sports storyline, right? I mean, it's not mutants fighting crime like the X-Men. It's not mutants eating pizza and fighting crime like the Turtles. It's just mutants playing sports, and they're playing sports that you can't even bet on because it's a cartoon. Did it live up to the hype? I would say no. Now, should you watch it? I would say if you're into sports, maybe. But I think that this is more geared towards if you're into sports and like you also pick your boogers, or you're into sports and you don't wash your hands after you use the bathroom. Next, we have Battletoads. Battletoads, Battletoads, Battletoads. Oh my gosh, that was my childhood. So, Battletoads was released in 1991 for the NES. It was created by Rare, which is the same company that created Donkey Kong and Banjo-Kazooie. It was created specifically to compete with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And although it could not hold a candle to the Turtles, it did, however, gain its own cult-like following. Many see this as one of the hardest beat 'em up games of all time, and that is accurate. There was even a Battletoads and Double Dragon crossover game. That mug was hard. If you haven't played that game, what are you doing with your life? The main characters in this game were named Zitz, Pimple, and Rash because of just how sexy they are. They're really shortened versions of their human names. According to a Nintendo Power magazine, they were actually just 3 regular guys who were video game testers, and they were playing a VR game, and they actually got sucked into the game by Silas Locklear, and they became Battletoads and were trapped in the same realm as the Dark Queen. So being a video game tester is not all it's cracked up to be. The point of the video game is to defeat the Dark Queen and all of her space mutants, but you don't have to worry about the point of the game because you're never going to get to the last stage anyway. Okay. When it aired, it lasted for a total of 5 seasons. No, it didn't. It lasted for 1 episode. So what it was about is there was a princess named Princess Angelica, and the Dark Queen was trying to get her because she had a magic amulet. But Angelica's homeboy, Professor T, had a potion that could turn trustworthy individuals into great guardians. And that guardian, her ancestors, which was the Battletoads. So they traveled to this little unknown planet called Earth, and they went to California and they got on the line with DJ Mustard, put them in contact with Kendrick Lamar, and he asked them, do you know anybody around who's trustworthy? And that's where Kendrick Lamar introduced them to George, Morgan, and Dave. And they essentially knight them as the Battletoads. So the Toads could turn back to their normal selves by saying, let's get normal. And they could turn to Toads by saying, let's get warty. And that's pretty much like the lamest version of it's morphin' time that I ever heard. But the thing is, this came out before Power Rangers. So perhaps the Power Rangers stole its morphin' time and made it their own thing and made it better. So why did it end? Well, people thought it was trash. And it couldn't compete with the Turtles. Going up against the Turtles in the early 90s was a horrible idea. I guess they figured that they could compete because they're like, well, turtles are reptiles, but we have amphibians. But it don't work like that. Y'all just come off like knockoff Ninja Turtles, right? But that's not knocking Battletoads. Like I said, in my childhood, I love the Battletoads, but I absolutely love the Ninja Turtles more. Did it live up to the hype? Unfortunately, I would say no. But we really don't have much data to go off of because we're really just basing everything off one episode. I think that perhaps if it came at a different time, not in the middle of Turtle Mania, perhaps years later and had better animation, then maybe it could have built its own cult following. But I don't really think that we have the data because we're only going off of one episode. So if I had to ask if it lived up to the hype, I would just have to say no. But I did have a fun fact for you guys. The writer for the Battletoads, his name is David Wise. But the music composer for the Battletoads video game, his name is David Wise. And it's a completely different person. Also, the David Wise who wrote for the show also wrote for Star Trek, the animated series, Transformers, and ironically, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. But let me know in the comments, who do you think will win in a fight? Battletoads with their brute force or Ninja Turtles with their developed martial arts skills? I really want to know. I might do a poll, but I'm going to ask, leave it in the comments. Let me know. If I had to say, I would say the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles without a doubt would kick the Battletoads butts, but I just want to know what you guys think. So next we have Earthworm Jim, which is a classic if you were a kid when I was a kid. And to be honest, before going into this video, I didn't even know that Earthworm Jim was based off the video game. I always thought that the video game was based off the cartoon, not the other way around. So that was really cool learning that. So the way that it came about is Playmates was making the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles toys, and they were balling out of control. They was like, every time I come around, you say that bling bling, ping a ring word about it bling bling. And they wanted to have their own franchise since TMNT did so well. So in 1994, Playmates and Shiny Entertainment developed Earthworm Jim. The game was based on an earthworm named Charles. It was based on an earthworm named Jim who was in a robotic suit. Okay, it's a run and gun platformer. It has a really unique style because Jim can whip out his head and use it as a whip. It started on Sega Genesis, but then literally came to everything. It became known for its horrific comedy, and it became critically acclaimed upon its first year release. And Marvel even did a mini comic book series based on it. It aired in 1995 and ended in 1996, which is crazy to me because as a kid, I felt like that was on for years and years, but I probably was just watching reruns and was too stupid as a kid to realize it. Man, kids are dumb. No, no, no. Kids are the future. Okay, they're not dumb. So, what this show was about is the bosses from the game were essentially trying to reclaim Jim's super suit and they were trying to take over the galaxy. Some episodes would just be about Jim trying to borrow his neighbor's egg beater. It was about nothing.
The show is about nothing. Well, it's not about nothing. No, it's about nothing.
The episodes usually start off with Jim and his sidekick, Peter Puppy, typically in some random predicament that has absolutely nothing to do with the episode, and the villain doing something completely random that has nothing to do with Jim. They changed going about episodes this way during the second season. A good number of episodes end up with the character being crushed by a cow, just giving a nod to the original game's ending. So why did it end? Creative differences. The creators over at Shiny, they didn't like how Earthworm Jim was always being portrayed as a buffoon and how Peter Puppy always came off like the hero. Because like he would like turn into basically the Hulk and stuff. And it was making Jim look like a sidekick, and they didn't like that he was always like a complete moron. Did it live up to the hype? Abso-freaking-lutely. Like I said, I thought that the video game came because of the cartoon success. I didn't realize it was the other way around. So, believe it or not, I didn't even play the video game till I was in my adulthood. But the cartoon, on the other hand, I absolutely watched that as a kid. So I would say definitely go back and check it out if you can. Next up, we have Mega Man, also known as Rockman in Japan. Mega Man was released in 1987 on the NES. And since then, the game has blown up to over 50 games. 11 in the main series. The original Mega Man games were stupid hard, and I cannot play them without save states. I just can't. If you can, well, good for you. But I can't, okay? Let me know in the comments also, which one is harder, Battletoads or Mega Man? I want to say Mega Man, because Battletoads, at least if you playing that co-op, you got somebody to help you, but Mega Man, you just out there by yourself dying over and over. Okay, my bad. Let me get back on track. When this show aired, it ran from 1994 to 1996, which was 2 seasons, 27 episodes total. It was produced by Ruby Spears Productions. So what it was about is Dr. Light and Dr. Willy worked for this little company called Tesla, and they were making robots for Elon Musk. One of the robots started tripping. He started completely destroying their laboratory. Dr. Light figured he was tripping because of his guidance system. And Dr. Willy was like, no, I made that robot. And he's like, dude, look, it's the guidance system. So he rebuilt Rock and he made another robot named Roll, which was the supporting character. It was a female robot. Meanwhile, this dude, Dr. Willy freaking Buster, done ran off with the plans on how to make the robots. So he done stole the plan on how to make the original Rock robot. And so he make Proto Man, get it? Prototype Proto Man. He steals that, right? And then him and Proto Man straight come and jack Dr. Light's other robots. Like he got other robots that, you know, he plans on using to like help the environment and help society. And this Buster straight comes in and steals the robots. Freaking loser. Make your own robots. Well, I guess he did make his own robot. He made Proto Man, but that's not what we're talking about. So those robots that he stole, essentially those are the villains in the game. Rockman was initially like a helper robot. Like he was just like a janitor essentially. But when Dr. Willy came and he had Proto Man, Dr. Light was like, nah, boy, you gotta strap up, son. So he gave Rockman a blicky arm, right? So that's when he's like, you gotta get straps. So that's when he gave him the blicky arm cannon. The reason why it ended is, even though it had a loyal fan base, it just wasn't driving toy sales, which is essentially what most of these cartoons are about, is just driving toy sales. Did it live up to the hype? I would say yes. It seemed very interesting. Just from my brief research of this cartoon, it's something I definitely want to go back and check out because I didn't see it as a kid. Something else that's really interesting is, even though Mega Man or Rockman was such a hit in Japan, this was only recently released in Japan in January of 2024 to Japanese streaming services. So they're just now experiencing this cartoon for the first time. But let me know what you all thought of me doing this style video. This is my first time ever doing like a video essay video. I want to do more of these about different things when it comes to gaming and geek culture. And I really just want to give a huge shout out to the Review Studio for just giving me this idea and also just giving me some encouragement with all this. If you haven't gone and checked out their channel, definitely go do that. They have a lot of solid stuff. Make sure you go like and subscribe over there. But thank you guys. Let me know in the comments if there are any cartoons that you thought that were super dope that came from video games, or if there's any information that you learned or anything that I left out that you think I should have mentioned. And yeah, just let me know what you think. All right, y'all. God bless and salutations to the nations. Oh yeah, make sure that you like and subscribe because I'm on my journey to my first 1,000 subs. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to run it up. All right, peace. Angel Complete.